Hello there, my name is John and thanks for tuning into my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the debate between Aaron Abke and Wes Huff. And I know that there was other debate partners in there, like Wes Huff was partnered with Stephen Boyce and Aaron Abke was partnered with, I think Cam Waters was his name. But I was just naming Wes Huff and Aaron Abke as they were the primary debaters, and I think they were the ones that originally were planning to debate. It was just going to be them two, but then they decided to go ahead and get two more people in there, and then the quote-unquote moderator, Anton, I think his last name is Wabisky, and he's also the one who posted this online on YouTube, so I appreciate him for posting that and hosting the debate. But from a moderator perspective, if you're looking at a formal debate and how a moderator should perform, I feel like he should have been, or at least not shown his bias as much. He should have been a little more fair to the side of Aaron and Cam, because it was pretty clear. He made it very evident multiple times that he was more on the side of Wes Huff and Stephen Boyce. And if you don't believe me, just go and watch. There's two. The debate is split into part 1 and part 2 because I think it was about 5 hours altogether. Each video is over 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. So there's a lot to unpack in this debate. But I just want to say, so the perspective that I'm coming from, just to be clear, I consider myself a Christian. I consider myself a follower of Christ, a follower of Jesus. I'm not perfect, and I don't claim to be a perfect follower of Christ or to perfectly embody his teachings and everything like that. But I also, I don't consider myself a mainstream Christian or a traditional Christian in the sense of what mainstream or traditional fundamentalist Christianity is seen as today. You could call me a traditional Christian if you mean that I adhere to the traditional teachings of Jesus, what he taught in the Gospels and things like that, but not traditional in the sense that I adhere to all the fundamentals of the faith that were established by Orthodox Christianity or by the Roman Catholic Church or Protestants or whatever. I don't claim to be a fundamentalist. I don't necessarily affirm. There might be some fundamentals of the faith that I would align with, but I don't hold those as any kind of axioms or anything like that. I am basically trying to, when I study Jesus and study scripture and things like that, I try to come at it with a open-minded perspective, and I try to consider everything in context of what the original authors and people that are talked about and people that are cited like Jesus, what they originally taught and believed. I don't necessarily affirm what the interpretation of those teachings are from modern scholars or modern fundamentalists and things like that. So with that out of the way, I wanted to talk about a few things on this debate. Now, there were some things in this debate that I think Aaron said that what the original, there was going to be two subjects that the debate was originally supposed to be about, and that was, is the Bible reliable? And I think, were there differences between Paul's teachings of Christianity and Jesus' teachings? So, or maybe not necessarily Jesus' teachings of Christianity, because in Jesus' day, Christianity wasn't a thing. I mean, Jesus wasn't a Christian. He was a Jew, and he was basically trying to point the Jews, his people, towards a better way, the way of Christ, I mean, that's why he and his followers were originally considered to be the way. That movement was considered to be the way, or the way of Christ. It wasn't called Christianity until a little bit later. But where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. But so yeah, they had those topics, those two topics. Is the Bible reliable? And did Paul and Jesus' teachings align with each other? And those were the debates, the topics of the debate that were supposed to happen, that they agreed they would debate. But really, most of the time of the debate was spent with Wes and Stephen Boyce trying to change the subject and get into the weeds about a bunch of other topics that nobody really cared about. I mean, not that nobody cares about, but really stuff that is minor issues that was not like the central focus of the debate, or wasn't originally supposed to be the central focus of the debate. Like, they got into all this stuff about like animal sacrifices and Jesus cleansing the temple, and would Jesus, was he a vegetarian or a vegan? Did he oppose to animal sacrifices? And that might have been part of what they were going to. Maybe that was one of the smaller points that they were going to debate. But that was not the central focus of what the debate was supposed to be about. But then it did get kind of dragged on in that kind of stuff. And Aaron, like, you could tell he was a bit frustrated in this debate because they didn't even really get to address the differences between Jesus and Paul's teachings of the gospel and things like that, and whether or not they preached the same gospel. So that was frustrating for me, and it was also frustrating, I'm sure, for Aaron and for Cam, because Wes and Stephen and even the moderator, Anton, they kind of kept bringing this debate back to what they wanted to talk about, and kept talking about just their positions on fundamentalist Christianity. Or maybe they wouldn't, I don't know if they would consider themselves to be fundamentalists, but I know, like, Anton and Stephen Boyce, they more side on, like, the Orthodox side of Christianity, like, which is more like Orthodox or Catholic almost. I don't think they consider themselves Catholic, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're more on the Orthodox side. And then Wes Huff, I think he considers himself to be a Reformed Baptist. So, but I would say that they would probably, almost all of them probably hold to certain fundamentals that you must believe, or you must affirm, in order to be considered an authentic Christian or a true Christian. And I don't think that that's what Jesus would have. I mean, Jesus never said that these are the list of fundamentals you must affirm to be my follower. He never gave us a list or a statement of faith, or anything like that we were supposed to affirm, or facts about him that we were supposed to believe, about his divinity and his humanity, or like affirming the hypostatic union and all that kind of stuff. This was all stuff that basically church fathers and people from the early church, the Roman Catholic Church, and then later the Protestant Church during the Reformation, that they established these fundamentals, but that was from basically their interpretation of Scripture, and they made it to where if you don't affirm those things, then you're considered a heretic, and you're not Orthodox, and you shouldn't, and then you're not really a Christian, and you're on your way to hell if you don't believe those things. But that's not, Jesus never taught that. He never taught about affirming a certain set of facts about his divinity or anything like that. Basically, he said to follow him, and his primary commandment that he taught was to love one another, to love your neighbor, to love God, love your enemies, and if you do this, you're doing the will of the Father. So yeah, I'm not really going to talk about all the different things that they talked about in this debate, but I just wanted to kind of address that I feel like Cam and Aaron really didn't get to represent themselves very fairly in this debate, because they were given very little time to share their perspective, their side, and Wes and Stephen and Anton, who were more on the fundamentalist side, they had plenty of time to debate their arguments, to present their side of the argument, and I just don't think that it was a very fair debate. But I will say this, that Aaron or Cam, if you see this video, I just want to say I think you guys did an excellent job in the debate. You presented your side very well, with as much time as you were allowed, even though you weren't allowed that much time. And I think you represented the Jesus way very effectively. You demonstrated the love of Christ very well. You weren't rude, and you didn't resort to typical debate tactics like ad hominem attacks and like the bait and switch of trying to twist the Bible and like take certain things out of context to push a narrative or anything like that. Some people might say that you did, but I didn't see that necessarily. And I think that you guys were very genuine, and you were very authentic, and you said what you actually thought. You weren't just affirming a list of orthodox principles that the mainstream Christianity teaches, but you were actually saying what you truly thought and what you've found out through your research, which is commendable. And also, you were very gracious towards your opponents, whereas I didn't see that much from the other side. And I did take a screenshot from from the video, and this was towards the end of the debate. And it might be the thumbnail I use for this video, but in that screenshot, it shows the 4 main debaters in there, and it shows their facial expressions. And I think that their facial expressions are a good representation of how these people behaved in this debate. You don't really see in Wes or in Stephen, you don't really see much genuine curiosity, or like where you don't see them taking into consideration anything that Aaron or Cam had to say. It's like there's no genuine curiosity there. There's no wanting to actually hear what they have to say and wanting to consider and explore their opinions. It's basically just apologetics on display of them just defending their side, and they're not going to consider anything that opposes their views. And then you can see the expression. So on that thumbnail or on the screenshot, yeah, the expression from like Wes is like he has like his kind of like eyebrow raised, and kind of like he has like this very serious face, like he's just very skeptical of the other side. And it looks like Steven's face is like he's just very frustrated and angry and annoyed, because he's probably wasn't doing a very good job representing Christ. And then Aaron and Cam, they're both they both seem to have more of a smile, or like a basically just a kind demeanor in their facial expression. And maybe that's not being fair on my part, I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting when I saw that towards the end of the debate as it was ending, and I saw like all their facial expressions lined up next to each other, and I'm like, wow, this seems to be like a pretty accurate representation of how the debaters all presented themselves and represented their views. So if you watch those debates, I'm curious to hear your thoughts and whether or not you agree with me. whose side you were rooting for. I'm rooting for the side of truth. I am not rooting for one particular side or another, but I'm rooting for truth, and I'm not rooting for orthodoxy. I'm not rooting for fundamentalism. I'm not rooting for New Age. I'm not rooting for anything like that. I'm rooting for truth, and if one side can demonstrate that their side is true, and that they, and basically that they're not just taking things out of context and things like that. I want truth to be represented fairly and accurately, and not just people affirming everything that they've always taught to be true. So anyway, I think I've gone long enough talking about this, so I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. God bless.